last candidate that's going to speak, Nick Popaditch. You all know him. You need to listen as to what you can do for this man, for his campaign, because if there's one candidate that is the epitome of what iCaucus is about, it's Nick Popaditch.
Well, actually, to follow up on what Scott said, that's true grassroots politics. That kitchen table that we had the iCaucus betting conference on later became the desk in our campaign office and the conference table. So that's grassroots politics. Now, I just want to follow up on what Dara started with, on what Steph spoke about, and what Scott spoke about, and John did also. Everybody talked about what we can do to make a difference, and a room like this. That's not as full as it could be, but it's full enough to do what we have to do. And I'll tell you a story from my background. When I was in Fallujah, right before the first Battle of Fallujah, a man came up on my tank. I got down, I greeted him, Iraqi man. And I went up, and back then, this was 2004, when the future of that nation was much more up in the air, when it was a much more tough struggle, and the outcome was not in any way at all determined. And the man told me he was the mayor of Fallujah, and he wanted to speak with my chain of command. I called the chain of command, and they were on the way. And while we were waiting for him, this man said, if they take much longer to get here, somebody's going to kill me. And I thought about the courage of this man, the faith of this man, and his belief in our nation, that we would stand behind him, stand beside him in his fight for freedom. What he must think of liberty, what he must think of American exceptionalism, that he was risking his life to take that part of the political process, that he could be murdered on the streets of this city for standing up being the mayor. And things went south after this meeting. We fought the first battle for Fallujah. If you remember, that was when those 4 American contractors were murdered, their bodies were desecrated, and we went into the attack. This new Iraqi army that we were standing up in 2004 was to come fight by our side. When it came time for them to show up, 20 of them showed up. And my Marines were mad. But I tell you, they fought beside them. Because if 20 guys were willing to pick up a rifle and fight for their freedom, we fought with them. And because those 20 stood up, and because our Marines, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, stood beside them, those 20 turned into 200, turned into 2,000, turned into 20,000, turned into a free Iraq in part of the world where that is not an easy thing to do. Turned into a free Iraq despite the best efforts of Harry Reid, John Kerry, and many on the left. Sitting elected officials did their best to undermine it, and despite that, those individuals said it was this precious, it is this worth fighting for, it ended up working, it ended up succeeding. So now here we are. They're still over there. Our men and women are still over there fighting in Afghanistan. Last remnants of them are still in Iraq. While they're there, what's happening here? What are we doing here? The prosperity that they're over there defending is being torn down back here at home. Liberties that those generations before us fought so hard for are being sold away, torn away. But you come out here on a beautiful Saturday morning and spend it in a room like this. You're standing up. I'll stand with you. I'll fight with you. And here we are. We got about 6 months we got about 3 months till the primary, and another, 4 behind that. We'll turn this room into a full room. We'll turn it into a full auditorium. We're going to turn it into something because it's worth fighting for. You know it's worth fighting for, it's why you're here. I'll fight with you. Nick Popaditch, I'm running for Congress, California's 53rd. What do I believe? What is it I stand for? Because I believe the House of Representatives is the people's house. Yes. So I make a pledge to the people of the 53rd Congressional District. I make no pledge to no other organization, to nobody else. I go there to represent you. I am your link from your neighborhood into our federal government. I will go there, I will fight for you and fight for no one else. When I first got involved in politics, a great Marine general said to me, he said, Gunny, he said, politicians go and worry about their elections and re-elections. Statesmen worry about our children's future. And that was brilliant. I made that commitment. That's what I take up there. What does a congressman do? He answers 4 questions. What is the will of the people? What is it the people want? What do they want the federal government to do? And when I look at that, that's not such an easy question to answer. Because a lot of times people look at constituents, voting blocks, demographics. I look at everybody, including those children who can't vote yet. Because we're getting ready to hand down, what, $15, $20 trillion in debt. They got a stake in it. Darn it, they need to be represented. So will of the people is bigger than just those who can vote. And then he answers 3 more questions behind that. Is it constitutional? Is it moral? Is it ethical? And our Congress is getting all 4 of those wrong. That's why I'm going there to send them home. When do I bring courage? Courage. Because I like this doctor's thing. First, do no harm. So that's the first thing your congressman should do. The senatorial candidate, John, spoke to it, that you don't want the federal government in this. You don't want the federal government in that. I agree with him. The first decision I should make is to first do no harm. Is this something the federal government should be involved with? And it's going to take courage, because the easiest thing in the world is to try and buy a re-election. Our whole Congress is full of people who have been doing that. Is it the business of the federal government? Because I could use courage up there. Courage is saying no. To not put my political future ahead of the future of this nation. I could have used courage up there when they were passing stimulus. I could have used somebody saying, no, it's wrong. When they were passing Dodd-Frank, which would destroy our housing market. I could have used the courage up there to say no. When they were passing TARP and giving these ridiculous coffee shop genius arguments about how it was going to save something that hadn't happened. I could use the courage to say, no, it's not the role of the federal government. Because if you do that, where does it stop? And that's where we are right now, on that slippery slope. So the first is the courage to say no, but that's not enough. So how are we going to fix it? I know as iCaucus, you believe in a balanced federal budget. So do I. So I'm going up there and I'm going to dig in. I am going to dig in. Because they're going to talk about how we fix it. You can't cut this, you can't cut that. I tell you what, if you got czar somewhere in your chain of command, your funding's getting cut. I promise you that. And I'll tell you what, when I was running last time, I was out that farm out in Imperial Valley, and I will remember this to the day I die. You have these farmers that turned a desert into a breadbasket out there in the Imperial Valley that feed our nation. Businessmen just trying to make a living, employing all their neighbors. And a member of the EPA stood up and told them what they were going to do, and if they didn't do it, what kind of fines he was going to lay on them. And I said, who the hell elected you? Yeah. Nobody. You didn't elect them. They don't have the power of law over you. They certainly don't have the power to start taking your money. HHS, another one with the czar in the title. They decided we don't care about your religion either. Here's what you're going to pay for. I loved in that argument. How many times did you hear him say free contraception? And I was looking at my TV and said, what is free? Where is this free? What magical plan? Okay, so budget cuts. Is that going to be enough? No, we're going to grow the economy. We're going to grow it. Now here's a good one because I love the common ground ones. Probably didn't catch this, but in the past 2 weeks, President Obama, because President Obama came out in the past 2 weeks and said he wants to cut corporate tax. 35% to 28%. I said, holy cow, we agree on something. Let's cut the tax and that grows jobs. I can't believe it took his re-election to finally get him to do it. So there we go. Keep revenue here in our community. Keep it here. Lower taxes. Grow the economy. That's how we're going to start paying this deficit down. The second thing, we've got to reduce energy. And I tell you, here's how we're going to do it at Citizens. If this is not an easy case to make, right now with $4.50 a gallon gas, I don't know if we'll ever be able to make it. I'm looking for a volunteer. Darren had her people up there. I'm telling you right now, you want to turn your vote into 300-400, I got a job for you. Because all I'm going to do is give you a handful of my flyers, a handful of my trifolds, and you stand right at that gas line at Costco. Into 400 or 500 a day. Keystone Pipeline, drilling off the Gulf Coast, more supply. Get them all opened up. We're going to do that. I love the way they cut the drilling in the Gulf down. We had an accident. I love liberal logic. We have drunk drivers. Let's go back to horse and buggies, right? Just point out their ridiculousness when they do it. Now, finally, deregulate. They love to make it a bad word. I'm going to give them 2 litmus tests. Doesn't protect workers on the job, and I know that. Hey, I'm not a silver spoon typical politician. I'm a man of the community. I'm a blue-collar guy, as blue-collar as they come. I've got a son, he works a $10 an hour job. He had a problem on his job, he's not union, he had one option, to go to OSHA and file a complaint. We do need to protect workers on the job. I agree with that. I agree with the federal government's role in that particular mission. Now, the second question. Doesn't prevent those from working in the first place. Obamacare does that, needs to go. Unconstitutional, dirty government, needs to go. I pledge a repeal, I pledge a defund, I pledge everything it takes to get rid of that dirty legislation. Now, finally, when I started this campaign, I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on the economy. Because that's the biggest thing happening right now, on the economy. I'm a gunny, I'm a career Marine, make sure my flag's around straight. A lot of you know my background. I always get accused of that. Hey, he's too militant. Well, okay, I'll live with that. Thank you. I'll go with that. And I never felt I had to get involved with this military aspect. I always thought it kind of stood as an unspoken truth as to my belief. But this week, I've seen some things that have just turned my stomach. Just turned my stomach. And I can't believe the president didn't recognize this, because this is the standard tactic, because I look at everything tactically. I'm talking about what happened in Afghanistan, the apology that heard around the world. This is the standard tactic of his party, and how he did not recognize it. A fabricated crime, and then they demand an apology, and as soon as you apologize for it, it gives legitimacy to the made-up crime they had.
Yeah. Yes.
And right now we've got our men and women being killed over there, and our president siding on the side of the bad guys. Just this week, we went and had dinner with some moms, Marine moms. Got kids over there in the fight. And we asked them, what do you think about all this? And they said, we want somebody who's going to stand up for us. All right, the president's not going to do it. Congress isn't going to do it. I'll do it. I'll stand up for it. It's going to become a part of my campaign now. We're going to be out of the forefront supporting these guys right now. Absolutely. Two things that I can do right off the bat if elected. One is, right now, every congressman who voted for that budget deal, the debt ceiling increase deal, that carried with it a 10% cut in our military. Find out who your congressman is, and whoever voted for that. I'll tell you right now, in San Diego County, we only had one congressman who fell on the right side of that. Duncan D. Hunter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Only one who had the courage to stand beside that. The rest of them all sold out. And they didn't sell out their jobs. They sold out our military. We love to stand around and say, hey, we're against the war, but we support the troops. That's what the other side said. We support the troops. Really? You just cut 10% of them. And those of you in the military know how this works. And if you're not in the military, I'm telling you, here's how it works. It goes right to the career force. Those individuals who've been serving for 10 years are who are cut. That's right, do the math. Those men and women who have served since 9/11 and have done 4, 5, 6 deployments, our president is saying thank you very much. Our Congress is saying thank you very much. Here's the door. Have a nice life. And he put out a little token jobs program. Hey, I got a better idea. Let's not fire them in the first place. And I'll tell you what, I got a long memory. I got a long memory. And right now, I see that San Diego Committee on Military Contractors. They said, we're not worried about the budget cuts, because they're getting their little piece of the pie. I'll tell you what, that changes the day I get in office. You sell out our men and women who are out there fighting for us, don't come talk to me, because I will remember your words. I remember them. Now, absolutely.